All right, without further ado, we're only half hour late, but hey, it could be worse. It could be a full hour. So, welcome to episode number 1 of Tech for Coaches, presented by UnleashStrengths.com. I wrote this whole little thing out, but I'm going to go ahead and go off the cuff. I know Jim's going to say, no, read the whole thing, but Tech for Coaches is really created. It's a podcast. It was created because there were so many people leaving both Gallup and other coaching organizations. They were trying to harness the power of technology to spread the distance their message traveled. And really, that's some of the hardest things to understand is how to use all this tech stuff. Being 30 minutes late, we just showed you an example of how things can go awry. But today on Tech for Coaches, episode number 1, we have 2 guests with us, none other than Jim Collison. Most of you may recognize him from Gallup's Theme Thursday and Call to Coach, and Carol Anne McGuire, who is a friend of mine, was also a guest on Thematics. And today's podcast is going to be all about blogging, but we are open to any suggestions. So if you do have a topic that you would like to hear us discuss, please do not hesitate to ask. Drop it in the chat window next to this video. Email me, Andy@UnleashStrengths.com, or hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/UnleashStrengths. Jim, welcome.
Great to be here, Andy, and I'm just glad we finally got it rolling.
Yeah, we did. Carol Anne, it's nice to see you as always. Thanks for being our guest.
Woohoo! It's going to be a good night.
Yeah, there's some short hiccups. But so today we're going to be talking about blogging. And I actually, before I came out here to the office, I called my mom and I said, I'm doing a podcast about blogging. And she says, well, I don't know what a podcast is, and I don't know what blogging is either. So blogging is just one of those things that was created to get your message out there. It's basically a form of a website that you can just slam content into in the form of blog posts, and they're usually in there in some kind of calendar order, being that the newest is on top. But it's a great way for you to get information out there to both the people that you want to woo as clients, also to folks you just want to bring into your website to read what you have going on up here. So I absolutely love blogging, and I know Jim loves blogging as well. And I think it's just a great way to start this episode number 1 of Tech for Coaches. So Carol Anne is interested in blogging. She has a blog herself and wants to know some more information. So we'll go ahead and just leave it up to Carol to direct where the show goes from now on. So why don't you fire your first question?
All right, my blog is like a whole week old.
Oh,
Yeah, Carol Anne, why don't you tell us where we can find your blog so folks can follow along?
You can find my blog at rockyourstrengths.com.
And why do you have a blog? Did I force you into this?
Yes, kind of. You said I needed one, so I did it. And I really don't know what the heck I'm doing. So now is my time to ask you all the questions that I wanted to ask you in the beginning.
Yeah, no, it actually, you inspired this, right? And so as I was working, it all started one day. You know, we do some automatic tweeting for people who have strengths blogs, and I approached you and I said, do you have a Twitter account? And she's like, well, I use this one. I'm like, do you have a blog? And she's like, no, but I want one. And I hear that a lot in this space, is like, yeah, well, what am I supposed to do with it, like, once I have it? And so we're going to focus in a little bit on that as we spend some time together. So Carol Anne, let's go back to you. You started a blog. We talked a little bit, if folks want to go out to it again, rockyourstrengths.com is where it's at. And you got it out. It's working, right? It's out there and working, but we've had some struggles with it. Where did you struggle? First of all, what are your expectations out of the blog, and where did you struggle with it?
Okay, the whole thing is a struggle, so but it's good. I feel like I'm learning. I'm on a really, really steep learning curve, which is good for me because I am a learner, so it's fun and frustrating all at the same time. But there's things that I don't know. I feel like the more that I dive into it, the more I really have no idea. So I feel like I'm just swimming and not have an idea.
Yeah, well, let's back up a little bit before we get started too far. And Andy, you kind of mentioned, why do folks have blogs and what's available to them, right? Blogging is not anything new. You know, it's almost as old as the internet, right? So when we think about 95, 96, 97, blogging really started back then. So it's been around a long time. Oftentimes we say this term RSS, right? It stands for really simple syndication. It was a piece of code that was written. It was an idea, a concept that was written for folks to be able to follow these kinds of chronological events, right? That's really what a blog post is. It's just a chronological posting of something you've written, right? Think about a newspaper that just keeps going on and on and on. in most cases, a blog is one post after another. Not in all cases. If you go to the averageguy.tv, my tech blog, that's laid out a little bit differently. It's a blog, but it's laid out a little bit differently. And so a blog gives the reader or the writer the ability to create this content and put it together and do it in kind of this chronological order that people could subscribe to. And so you asked this question, why is it important that I have a blog? Well, we always ask the question is, who's your audience? So let's start with that question with you, Carol Anne. When we think you're a coach, obviously, but your audience isn't just people. You've got a niche of some kind. So who are you trying to reach?
So my thing is educators and parents. Are really my two major people that I work with, and churches. So in the blog, I started off with parenting because I have a lot of teachers and parents asking me, you can take StrengthsFinder when you're 16, but how do I see strengths in my younger kids? So that's kind of where I started. I got an idea from a teacher that wanted to see her strengths in her second grade class and how to do that. And so that's where I got the idea for the blog. So that's where I started.
Yeah, and it's just been out there a short period of time. What's been the feedback from your audience? Have you gotten any feedback?
I have. I've gotten good feedback. I actually did. There's two that I've gotten really good feedback on. I did my first one that I did was on hot air balloons when I was in Albuquerque, and that was just totally inspiration that made me write that. I think it was the day after I had talked with you about this, and I had flown to Albuquerque, and it was their hot air balloon fiesta, like international fiesta, and there was hundreds and hundreds of hot air balloons in the air. And can I tell the story? Can I start?
Go ahead. No, you're good.
So while we
don't follow a very strict timeline here, in case you haven't been able to tell yet.
I'm so excited about this story because as I was watching all of these amazing hot air balloons, the school that I was working at, I drove up and they were unpacking one of the balloons. And the trailer that it came in was this little tiny trailer. It had a picture of the hot air balloon on the side. That it was just this totally plain, ordinary trailer, like a very, very small horse trailer almost. And so I kind of watched for a little while as they were pulling out this hot air balloon, and as they were pulling out, there's folds and folds and folds and folds of hot air balloon. It was like all over the place, and then they started blowing it up. And I thought, wow, that's kind of like us. Like, we are kind of like that hot air balloon that we kind of stay in our trailer package. And if you don't know what your strengths are, you just think you're pretty good in this little trailer. And what you need to know is God created you for so much more.
Yeah.
Like, He really wanted you to fly and show your colors and do what you were really, really designed to do. And I just felt like it was just a moment of inspiration. I just felt like at that moment it really spoke to me as we need to unpack our hot air balloons and soar.
Yeah, and so you've got an opportunity when we think of the blog platform to be able to do it. You've got an opportunity to go long form. Andy, you're familiar with this as well, right? With Twitter, right? So blogs outdate everything pretty much when we think about what our social platform is today, right? It outdates Twitter, it outdates Facebook, it outdates Tumblr, it outdates, you name it, right? It was even before MySpace, if you were back in the MySpace days, which was like one of the very first social networks to really take off. And so when you think of a blog, right, it gives you so much more space, so much more room to be able to express yourself. You're 140 characters on Facebook? Nah, you can't do it. You could do it on Facebook, but that's a different kind of audience, right? That you're trying to reach. And so the blog kind of gives you the ability to go long form on people, add pictures, there's all kinds of variants when we talk about blogs, right? All different kinds of platforms and ways to do it and ways to get it done. So let's talk through. So Carol Anne, we talked about this in the pre-show. I don't really like the way your blog landed out here because it's kind of messy, and it's not messy from a content. I hope you don't mind. I said that to your face earlier. It's not like I'm saying bad things.
No, this is why I'm
Yeah.
here. I want to hear this.
But from a tech perspective, it's messy. Let's but before we go back, so folks are saying, hey, I want to think about blogging. Let's talk about some platforms. You kind of got a custom. You went to somebody and said, hey, build this blog for me, and they built this custom thing for you. Somehow, when you go to update it, how do you actually do blog posts? How do you go in to update a blog post?
There's like an admin side to it.
Okay.
So I go to the admin side and I do my blog there.
When you log into your site, do you log in with a WP-admin at the end of it when you're no?
Really?
So no?
I don't know.
Okay, good. So
I marked it on my computer and I just go there.
That means you're not on WordPress. But Andy, you and I have talked about this, a couple different kinds of platforms. So if someone was interested in blogging, they don't have a blog. There's a couple ways to do this very simply. Name for me a couple of the free versions that are out there.
Well, first, blogging. Let's go back a little bit. Blogging is not something that I really would urge everybody to get into. Blogging is one of those things where you have to have the time to dedicate to it, because when we create social content online, we're either helping us or hurting ourselves. And one of the things you can do to hurt yourself is delve deep into a blog, create it, throw up 1 or 2 posts, and then forget about it for 6 to 8 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And then the first time somebody wants to search for you and to find out if you are a decent coach or if you are a decent consultant, they may land on that blog for the very first time. And if they see the last post of July 2013, that may tell them something that you're not the type of person to follow through. So I always recommend, and I jotted some things down while she was talking, if you want to blog, think about this. You have to enjoy doing research. There's a tremendous amount of research that goes into blogging. You have to like to write. If you can't sit down and write a thank you note, then blogging is probably not your thing. You have to be willing to take what's going on up here and convey it into easily understood terms, because not everybody's going to understand what's going on up here. You have to be passionate about your topic. There's this little phrase that cruises around the blogosphere, if you want to call it that, and podcasting too, that says, if you're passionate about it, it will profit. That's BS, okay? Just because you're passionate about it doesn't mean that it's going to reveal or actually generate funds in the form of cash money into your account. Passion is going to help you create content, because some of the things we're going to talk about today is how to get that message out there so more people realize that you are not only passionate about coaching, but you're also doing it for a living. This is how they can get in touch with you. And the other thing you have to do is you have to be very comfortable publicizing your information. I've written several blogs where I would love to just go back and delete them, because I think, my mindset has changed. I don't think like that anymore. But that's the last thing you want to do. Really, blogs show how you blossom and grow as an individual, and you'll see that in people's writing style. That's why I truly love blogs, because you can go all the way back to the first post and then go all the way to the most recent post, and you'll see a whole different ideal and kind of a focus of the writer itself. So there's some free blogging software out there. Now, like what Carol Anne does and what my blog, Unleash Strengths, and Jim's blog requires us to do is actually host our domain name, our website, on a third-party server. So we don't necessarily, it's not free for us. We have to secure the domain name, and then usually we pay a monthly fee or an annual fee to host that site with Bluehost or HostGator. Some of the free ones out there, Google's platform is blogger.com, blogger.com. That is the easiest way, and what I would highly recommend somebody start out on if they want to get into blogging. Again, blogger.com, it's free. And it actually does give you options to include ads on your page. So if you want to try to monetize with some kind of Google advertising or some kind of pay-per-click type stuff. Again,
Andy, is it attached to my Gmail account?
No, I mean it'll be a Blogger address, so it'll be like www.yourwebaddress.blogger.com.
Totally different.
And I don't know if they integrate. I know they do have social integration.
You would log in using your Gmail account to access it if you created it from that. Yeah.
But it doesn't have to do with the name.
Doesn't have to. No, you'll create a separate Blogger account. And a little secret: coaching.gallup.com is a Blogger blog.
Ooh.
So
yeah, they give you a ton of options.
It can, right? Yeah. You can do that. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, no images. I mean, social sharing, the whole 9 yards, at the right price of free $99. So that's what I always say, free $99. So it's great to start.
Word.
I also like, in that same genre, though, I also like WordPress.com. So WordPress has two different platforms, WordPress.com, which is the free side, WordPress.org, which is the hosted side. And so you can do the same thing at WordPress.com. They push you a little harder for upgrades over there at WordPress.com, so they're always trying to upgrade you, but you can absolutely set up a WordPress. They'll host it for you. They'll take care of all the back end and all the updates and all the upgrades and those kinds of things. And you can start a free one. Same type of deal. You know, if you go to Blogspot, you're going to get youraddress.blogspot.com. With WordPress, you're going to get youraddress.wordpress.com. So you don't really own those URLs. I don't think those carry the stigma that they used to carry maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. People are like, what, you can't afford your own blog, right? You know, type deal, like you can't buy your own domain. That has kind of disappeared for a lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of folks come out with either one of those, and because we're so tied into links these days, I think it just works. So don't feel like you have to go out and get your own domain. In fact, I don't recommend it in a lot of ways when you're just starting, because you don't know if this is going to last or not, right? So don't go out and spend a bunch of money. Get started, write some stuff. If people start going, hey, you're pretty good at this, well, then maybe there's an indication that you upgrade to the next level. Maybe start paying for it.
Yeah, and always author your blogs on some kind of Word doc. So author them in Microsoft Word or something like that, and then save them as a file. If you author them directly to WordPress or directly to Blogspot and you upload those, there's a chance that you might lose them. I mean, that's one of the things where bloggers had some issues with. It's not always accessible. Sometimes the platform is down, but a great place to start. And I would strongly recommend that to anybody who's willing to dip their toes in the blogging pool, but not ready to jump all the way in. So those are some really good options.
Okay, so I have a couple questions for you.
Go.
How often should a blogger blog?
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents worth. A blogger should blog as often as they feel motivated to blog.
No,
okay?
That's not the right answer. Like, is it like whenever? So then are you going to just lose people if you're not every Friday at 10 o'clock? Or?
There's some websites out there and some books I read that say if you want to grow your blog quickly, shoot a new blog post out 2 to 3 times a day. I've also heard 2 to 3 times a week. Personally, for me, once blogging becomes a chore, I no longer enjoy doing it and I stop. So you have to kind of know yourself. I mean, are you that dedicated? Now, you can sit down and write little 2-paragraph blog posts and start churning them out and maybe write 3 or 4 a day, and then just through your back-end admin page, you can just schedule them out, boom, 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 and kind of forget about it. When I write and I get an idea in my head, I tend to go on and on and on. So for me, the task of writing a blog post is not something that's super simple. So I could never put out the same quality that I do today in 2 to 3 posts a week. That being said, I did develop a little cheat I call content double tap. And that's where I take one piece of content, like a blog post or this podcast, and I try to convert it into a separate form of content. So what we're doing right now is we're recording a video podcast or a webcast. This will eventually become an actual podcast and audio version, and if I choose to, I can hire somebody or do it myself to transcribe this content, and then I can take out chunks and create separate blog posts out of that. So there's ways to take one form of content and you can dissect it.
You can tweet out of that as well, right? So there's lots of little tidbits, especially in a program like this. There's lots of little tidbits where we're pulling out good ideas or great ideas, because mine are great. And you could then tweet them and link back to the blog. Again, this is the power of branding when you talk about, so here's another reason why you should have one, because it can be a branding platform for you. So do you want people to understand who you are and what you stand for? You can post that in the blog in log form, and they can come back to it and really see who you are. Not like they could in a Twitter or a Tumblr or a Facebook from that standpoint. So it does give you some additional options in doing that.
So if you're looking for a magic number, my personal opinion is one doesn't exist. If you're smart about your content and you know how to dissect it, like I stated earlier, you can create more posts. Just don't force yourself to do as much as possible because you feel like it's going to build your brand. Because I tell you what, you're going to burn out quickly if you do.
Well,
Okay.
and let me
Wait.
say, hold on, Caroline, before you go on, let me say this. I will say this excuse for a lot of your questions. So let me just get it out of the way. Know your audience, right? So
Okay.
how often? What is your audience expecting from you, right? If you go out of the gates daily and then they're expecting this daily, then you start attracting people who are expecting this daily update from you, and you can't keep up with the pace, it's going to be tough, right? If you start weekly or monthly, if you're sporadic, I have a good friend of mine who I used to work with 8, 9 years ago, and she blogs, and she writes whenever she feels like it. And I don't follow her like I'm going to get a daily or a weekly or a monthly update. It just pops up on Facebook. I'm like, oh, great. And I pop over to her blog and I read it. If your audience is looking for expertise and they're expecting a weekly update from you, well, you should probably do it weekly. So it just depends on your audience. So ask those. You'll start gathering a crowd around you and start asking them, what would you like to get from me? Maybe they want to get weekly tips, right? Maybe they want to get monthly tips. My podcast folks, I send them a monthly note every single month on the dot. Boom, on the first of the month, I send them a note. That's what I told them I do. That's what they're expecting. So know your audience. Okay, go with your question.
Okay. So let's just say I know my audience. I'm posting weekly. How do I know it's working?
Well, are they buying what you're selling? Right. We come up with all these magic numbers like a number of hits, or we dig into Google Analytics and we say how many people are visiting. None of that means anything till we talk about conversion. Right. What are you trying to do with it, and is it happening? That's how you know if you're successful. So if your blog is to promote your coaching practice, are you gaining new clients?
Okay.
It's as simple as that. Don't get too we podcasters are crazy about numbers. We're worse than baseball players, right? We count and analyze everything when it comes to podcasting, sometimes to our detriment. And none of that stuff matters. The results are what matter. So are you getting the end result that you want? If you don't have to be selling anything. If you're creating community and you're getting feedback from your community, and that is your goal, that's all that matters. If you're just trying to build relationships, that's all that matters. Are you doing what your goal intended? So set a goal, I think, early on. What do I hope to get out of this? And then if you are, you're being successful. If you're not, tweak it.
Okay, so that's I'm glad you said tweet it, because...
Or tweak is what I said, but tweet.
Oh, well, I heard tweet, so...
Tweet, go ahead.
That too. Okay, I have an established Twitter account that I normally use for everything. I also created another Twitter account for strengths. Should I use another Twitter account or use the one that I use all the time?
I can jump in on this one. If you already have an established following, I would stick with that one. I mean, it's really, even if you try to grab a hold of that network and pull them over to your new account, chances are you're going to lose probably roughly 75% of them. They're not going to just bleed over into your new account. If they're expecting the same kind of information from you, now if you have a Twitter account and you're telling them about how to fix their hot rod, and then you have a Twitter account where you're talking about strengths, it's not a very congruent message. So obviously that's going to be a little bit different. But if the message is very, very similar to what you're already preaching on Twitter, I would just stick with that one. That's my input. So.
Yeah, no, I think I said that. You asked me that question during the pre-show, and we were having all kinds of connectivity problems. And I'd say the exact same thing. You know, Twitter and Facebook, we'll focus on those two because those are two of the largest. You could add, Pinterest and some of those other, Tumblr, some of those other sites that maybe don't, Google Plus, that don't have as much traction. But if we really think about Twitter and Facebook, the real purpose of those when we talk about your blog is to kind of advertise that, right? To get that word out, to help you do a short message that gets to the people, that helps them say, hey, I have something new. Hey, watch me, I have something new. One of the benefits, and I'll say to the coaches, if you have a blog right now, you're a coach and you have a blog and you're writing primarily about strengths, and you'll include our Strengths Center link in your posts, I'll retweet those, and then StrengthsFinder will pick that up and retweet it. So it's a huge benefit because we've been growing the StrengthsFinder community. There's about 6,000 now as of, this is October 20th. We have about 6,000 followers at this point. So your blog could be seen by as many as 6,000 people on a retweet. You can also take advantage with Twitter. You can also take advantage of building that community around your Twitter account and getting other people to retweet you. So there's this gamification of Twitter, right? It's just, what do I got to do to get a big account to retweet me? And maybe you can do that. Maybe you've got the right connections and they'll retweet, and then that'll pick up visibility for what you're doing. So there are some things that you can do around both Facebook and Twitter. Twitter is particularly good at this. This is why I ask the coaches, what's your Twitter account, when I ask for their blog, because I want to retweet it out through my account as well as the @StrengthsFinder account,
Right.
so that I can get maximum visibility.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay, so you've looked at my blog.
Yeah.
So how can I improve it? Like, it's a week old. It's not even.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. No,
but
right
I want to make it better. So how do I do that?
Let me give you a few tips, and Andy, jump in here and just interrupt me in the middle of this. So one is simpler is better, right? Don't clutter them up with a bunch of. We get kind of, as you start building a blog, they always start simple and then they get complex. It's like, oh, I'll add this, and oh, I'll add that, and I could add this thing in there, and I want to advertise this. And I always say keep it really simple. It needs to be as simple as your brand, one message, right? You're trying to take one message to somebody about something. So make it simple. Now, you can still have complex structures in there, and it's still simple. That's the elegance of design in there.
Is it better to have my blog on the front page of my website or a separate page?
Depends what you're trying to drive people to, right?
Yeah.
So this is. Go ahead, Andy.
No, I mean, when I first launched the very first blog, which is being recreated right now, which was Bent Business Marketing, it's still my very first business and marketing firm. I had my blog on the homepage. So as soon as you came to my website, you typed in bentbusinessmarketing.com, boom, there you were, you saw my blog. But what I've noticed is that people were coming there, hitting the homepage, reading my blog, but not following through, not following that call to action, not looking into my services that I offered. So what I did on unleashstrengths.com is I took the opportunity really to put, like, I'm looking at your blog right now as I speak here, but to put all my information up front, boom, right there, tabs to the About Me section and things like that, and try to avoid too many distractions on my homepage, forcing the visitors to kind of dig around a little bit, navigate through the website, and research me more as a strengths coach rather than just a blog.
Okay.
And then, Carol Anne, I would say, so keeping it simple. You've got a lot of small text in a lot of different places, and the colors are all over the place from that standpoint. But and it's really bright. I mean, which is good, right? Could be good, bad, depending on what you're trying to do with it. But the most important thing I think about a blog is the ability for someone to share it, because that's really what you want to happen. You want someone to read it, and then for them to be able to do social share from that standpoint. So.
I know exactly where we're going.
Yeah. So what that means, what social share means, is those icons across the top or across the bottom that have Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and whatever, right? Pinterest and Tumblr and Reddit and all those social networks. That if someone's reading it, they're like, oh man, I so want to share this with my friends. However they want to do it, they can do they're one click away from invoking a social share, so that it easily goes into their social networks. And that's missing from what you had. Your RSS feed is also wacky, right?
I know.
We've tried that a couple times, and it's doing some really weird things. So a simplified, this is where a WordPress infrastructure, this is why I recommend WordPress. So WordPress has been around a long time. There's some of the original software that was written for bloggers. We podcasters have picked it up and turned it into a podcasting platform, which blogging and podcasting are very similar from that standpoint. But it's really designed for expedient sharing, and so it does RSS very well. It does social sharing very well. There's lots of different plugins you can use. Another advantage to using WordPress over, say, a Blogger is that Google bought Blogger and then hasn't developed it in the last 4 years. Where WordPress continues, they just had a brand new upgrade, which new functionality came into it.
Mm-hmm.
You get more complex. Blogger's very simple, very easy, a great place to start for just going. WordPress adds a little bit more complexity to it, and so if you switched over to like a WordPress platform, you would get more functionality, but maybe a little harder to get started with that because there are so many more. You know, there's a very easy formula to remember: options equal confusion.
Yeah.
That's the way it is in the tech. That's why Mac, that's why the iPad is so successful. It's because it's very simple to use.
Yeah.
They took a very complex tool and made it very simple. Your blog needs to be very, very simple.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's great.
So I think just a few things, as you meet with your web guy and say, hey, look, we need to simplify things down a little bit. I need to get some social shares in there.
Or web girl. Or web girl.
Or web girl. Sorry about that.
He's a guy. That's okay.
She told me it was a guy in advance. But if you're listening generically and it's a web gal, make it simple. Make sharing simple. Make the platform very easy and intuitive to deal with. So when you land on the page, and this is where a designer is helpful. When you land on the page, it should show you something to do, right? So in your case, you've got all your social shares across the top, right? It's simple. That's like it's connect with me. Your site does this really well. I land on it, boom. Okay, I know where you're at on Facebook. I know where you're at on Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your email. That's awesome. That part is awesome. You've taken advantage of the wide video format or wide picture format that everybody's kind of going to, which is a big picture with text on top of it. A lot of folks are doing that now. That's very cool. Then we get what we call below the fold. That's when you scroll down.
And I would venture to say, just looking at your website right now, below the fold would be like underneath notes from your strengths coach.
Yeah.
Right there is where I do a little bit of scrolling, and then all of a sudden things really start to move.
Right.
Your little name tag thing, although the animation is cool, it's distracting. But I think honestly the site's pretty dope. I like the way it looks. I like those brush strokes. Just maybe a little too much. Try to break that down into some separate tabs as opposed to, because you have, up top you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs, which are perfect. That there's nothing within those separate tabs up there. You can't put all the other stuff that's on the bottom. And make a nice little landing page.
Yeah, I think just some tweaks, right? A change in a font. Your font's kind of small and hard to read in some cases. For me as a blogger, it's hard to tell, is this a landing page or is this a blog? That's the question I had for you.
Yeah, see, that's why I was wondering, should it be on that page or should it be separate?
What are you trying to drive your audience to, right? What's the action that you want them to do when they hit this?
Yeah. As a coach, I would also recommend this should be a landing page, and with a call to action and some small little maybe tabs in the bottom to reveal some more information. But I think it's too much. And one thing, old school advertiser David Ogilvy always said, do never put anything in reverse type. And reverse type means you have white text on a colored background. It's insanely difficult to read, and I have 20/18 vision, but it's difficult. It kind of makes you look away. So if you write a long blog post, it would be hard for somebody to read that white text on a red background.
All right, that's fair. Okay, so then should I be putting pictures in there? Do I need, is that something to happen?
Yes, but not too many.
Yes.
Yeah, here's the thing on pictures too. I have this written down on my handy dandy legal pad that I got for 99 cents at the Dollar Tree.
A whole other paper now.
Here's the thing about pictures. At one point, Google was very excited to see meta tag descriptions in pictures that were keyword dense. Google no longer really puts a lot of it doesn't really put the pictures up on a pedestal. They don't really look to pictures so much for SEO content as they did back in the day. So it's good to include pictures in there that are engaging to your reader, but don't get crazy with the pictures. One image, usually I don't know what the dimensions are that I use. I use the can dimension, but I slap that in there as my header image, and that's it. Boom. So I have a header image on my blog, which brings people into the blog. They read it, but I don't include any additional images in the blog unless it's something, a description, a picture of something with an arrow pointing to it. But that's it, just one and done for me. And that's the way that's the blogs that I like to read as well. Now.
Okay, so no, go ahead.
I was going to say, as far as pictures, if you want to grab pictures and use them and you don't want to go to jail, there's a few websites out there that you can use where you can grab pictures that are that are royalty free. Going to jail might be an exaggerated form of punishment, but I use photopin.com, photopin, P-H-O-T-O, pin.com. And you can just search what kind of photo you want, and then you can download it, and then they have a little script of HTML code that you'll put at the bottom of your post that'll link back to the originating source of the picture. I like using that one because I feel there's just more of a dynamic variety of images to use. Also Flickr, Flickr, I think is what it is, right?
I think so.
Flickr has an amazing resource for images as well, and I think the same kind of applies. As long as you drop that link in there and give whoever the photo originated from credit, you can use whatever photos you want in there. And then there's also another one called Stock Exchange, and I don't know the domain name, but if you just Google Stock Exchange photos, it's a whole bunch of just stock images that are out there for free to grab. But be careful when you are grabbing images off the internet. I mean, you're starting a blog right now, so you're putting yourself out there. The chances of somebody finding your image are probably slim to none, but if they do find it, you don't want to get caught in a battle with using somebody else's content without giving them credit. So that's just kind of an asterisk warning behind using images.
I think it's a good warning. I think it's a very valid warning. Yeah, we do too much plagiary as bloggers. We plagiarize way too many pictures.
Yeah,
we do, and they really give credit where credit's due, and make sure you're buying them or a subscription to if you're going to be doing a lot of this, might be worth a subscription to a stock image provider.
iStock.
Yeah, there's tons of them. There's tons of them. Find the best one that works for you based on the price.
Yeah, or like I do, have a sister who does photography, and just be really nice to her and ask to use her images.
Or coaches, right? Here's an opportunity. You know, one of the things we're trying to do here, Andy's really good at tech, and I love talking about this stuff. So I said, hey, we should start this tech show where we talk about it, and we'll invite folks in. You can write your questions and stuff like that. Let's go with what we're good at. Maybe there's some coaches out there who love doing photography and would be willing to start a site where the images would be open, right? And you guys could share. It could be a networking thing, right? We've got coaches all over the world. There is no reason. Alex Wong in here from Singapore, right? There's no reason he's in here tonight. There's no reason we shouldn't be, or we couldn't be, creating our own stock photo where people take pictures and dump them to. And there's different technologies that allow that to be done, and different, with different sites and such as well. Maybe we'll talk about how to do that in a future podcast.
I'm gonna jump on my soapbox real quick here, because I think the message behind Tech for Coaches is obviously to teach coaches how to use technology to enhance the distance their message travels. But also, as strengths coaches, myself included, our ultimate goal really is to just broaden the exposure of strengths-based development and strengths awareness. And that's going to help us make money. It's going to help us succeed as professionals. The more understood that StrengthsFinder is within the professional and corporate world, the easier it is for us to gain new clients and new contracts and kind of move on. So I want you to look at your blog not only as something that's focusing on you as a strengths coach, but also just focusing on the beauty of strengths-based development. And this coaching thing could apply to any coach out there, but it's particularly special to me because of my ability as a strengths coach and yours as well. So just always remember that. If you spend too much time, I really love, the old 80-20 rule, and it applies to everything, but 80% of the time I preach about how great strengths is and how to apply it in your everyday life. 20% of the time I'll say, call me if you want coaching. I'll pitch something I have for sale or one of my coaching packages. But you got to keep that balanced. If you get too me, and you get too salesy, people are going to stop reading your blog like that. It's the same on social media.
I don't even know how to be salesy, so that's probably not going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's just a
I
good
need
reminder.
to learn how to be salesy.
It's a good reminder. It's finding this good balance. A lot of folks will say, "Why don't you just tell me what to do?" Well, if it was easy as just telling you, everybody would do it, and it wouldn't be special, right? The special is the journey going on this. It's a journey I started about 8 years ago. To find that sweet spot, to create that community, right? And so those are the things we've done. Carol Anne, what else? What other questions have we inspired?
I have one more good question. So I went out to lunch today with another coach, and
I wasn't invited.
You could have come.
A little far to go there, Andy. A little far to go.
So we had lunch today. And she was saying that she had read my positivity sketch note that I did, and I put on the Gallup site. And she said, awesome. How about you do, like for Theme Thursdays, you do a sketch note for each Theme Thursday, and then the coaches, either coaches could have it or people that are watching the blog can see those. But then, is it too many pictures? So now I'm wondering, is that sketch note going to be too much of a graphic on a blog?
No,
definitely not. It's
too many pictures.
Your
No,
sketch
because
notes,
your post is about that picture.
yeah.
So you don't want to just include a whole bunch of pictures because they're random eye catchers, but your post is about that picture. And that's one of the things that I just absolutely love about you, Carol Anne, is that ability to do that sketchnoting thing. Like I said when I interviewed for Thematics, that draws me in like crazy because it's got all these colors and I can't stop looking at it. So yes, I mean, slap that picture in there. And what I like to do is you can use Dropbox, but I use Amazon S3 account. If you just want to write that down, Amazon S3, it's a free. I think I pay like 19 cents a month if that. You pay based on how much you actually put on. Jim, do you know exactly how that pay scale works?
Keep going, and I might have another suggestion. Keep going with it.
Yeah, I know where to put this stuff. I just don't know how it works.
Right.
That's where Jim comes. But I use an Amazon S3 account. So what I do is I log on to Amazon S3, I log into my dashboard, and I upload that image file, and I allow people, and it creates a little link. And so what you can do is put a smaller image of your sketch note on your blog post, and then create a hyperlink, both click on the picture and a text format hyperlink below, and just say, to download the full version of this image, click here. And then when they click on that link, it'll just open up in their browser window. It'll be the full image.
I just use Google. I mean, I use my Google Drive for that.
That's fine. You can use that too.
If that gets real popular, though, Google will lock it. So you have to be careful. Terms of service with storage, especially with cloud storage, Google's not necessarily a service that's intended to be shared, right? It's good that they'll share it within their own ecosystem, but it's not intended for somebody. I put a podcast. One time I tested Google to say, I wonder where they'll shut me off at, right? And so I put a podcast on Google on my Google Drive, and then I shared it via the RSS, and within 3 minutes it was shut off. So they've got some automatic trigger mechanisms that will stop that kind of sharing from happening. You have to be careful with those free or almost free storage accounts. This is where Andy's saying if you go with an S3 or a storage provider that's intended to be sharing, that you're paying for it. Dropbox got some terms and conditions on sharing as well, but is more friendly towards it, right? Public sharing. So Dropbox would work. Again, if it gets super popular, you could use Flickr for something like that. Yeah, absolutely, because it's a picture.
Okay.
Yeah, you could. You could. So that's great. I like what you're thinking. All of a sudden, you're starting to go, okay, where could I put these things? Because you have a photo, where could I put it where it have the best chance of going viral or of being picked up or being viewed? Or what are the best platforms where these kinds of things are seen?
Well, just where people can see them. So what I do is when I have a client that does individual coaching, I always sketch out a very personal sketch for them. And with their permission, I put that on Flickr. But that's with their permission. I have their sketches that other people can see. So, but my question about that, so if I did like a Theme Thursday thing, because there's going to be 34 of them, and that would give me 34 weeks of, blogging stuff to do.
Yep.
That's easy for me to do, that I love it. I know I'm not going to get tired of it because it's something I love to do. So I'm trying to think, like, what can I do in a blog that I just love to do anyways? So I love those sketch notes, but then is it going to be too much if I have, like, a blog of picture, 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 or should I, like, that positivity one? So I have positivity. Do I need to write something about that too?
Well, that's an important question because the power, Andy alluded to this earlier, in that pictures don't have, Google used to SEO the stuff you put up there with pictures. They don't do that anymore. It's really everything you write. And so if you're hoping to pick up some search traffic, in other words, when someone searches positivity on Google, you're hoping that your post goes up in the ranking, right?
Right.
There's a magic number of about 300 words. That's kind of currently what everyone's thinking, between 300 and 600 words on a blog post for it to be in that sweet spot for SEO. Okay. So if you're ever doing a blog, best is, even a podcast post, Andy and I were talking about this earlier, when I post a podcast, I embed all of that in a blog post, and then I try to write as many as 300 words so that it will get picked up by SEO. Now, sometimes I just get lazy, and I'm like, it's all in the podcast. The people listen to it. They're downloading it through their podcatcher anyways, and so I get a little lazy. But what would be cool is just recap it, right? Or summarize it, rewrite it, right? Positivity from how you see it, and put your sketch note in there, and all that stuff is good.
Okay.
I concur.
So when I rewrite consistency and that's my number 34, can I just be like, oh, consistency?
Yes, and make sure you spell out
Yeah.
the castle. I
think the lesser talent.
300 characters. Oh no, it's 300 words. Never mind.
Yeah.
I think a lesser talent and consistency actually plays well to blogging. Personally, I do believe that because, we talk, and Jim, you've talked about this. I think you and Dave talked about this before. Is you don't want anything to sound too canned or scripted. So if your blogs sound like they're robotic, they're gonna read like crap, and nobody's ever gonna come back to it. If your blogs sound conversational, like I jokingly when I was pitching the idea for thematics said, it's two people sitting in a bar stool at a bar talking about strengths, because that's what it is. That's the way that I write. I don't know about you personally, but that's the way I write, is very conversational. And that type of writing style really draws people in because they feel like they're just being part of a conversation. They're just talking with another human being. As humans, we don't like to read a lot. I think they said the average male spends about anywhere between a minute to 5 minutes reading the paper until boom, he's gone.
That's a male. No, I'm just
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the problem.
Is we have
right there. Here's your problem.
But my point is that sitting down and reading, people are so, and that's why I love podcasting. That's why I revert back to my content double tap strategy, is because this is easy for me. Talking is easy for me.
Yeah.
Communicating via written text would be difficult for me to create something of this magnitude and this amount of content at one time sitting here in my desk chair. So being able to take this, transcribe it, and convert it to blog posts is an easy way for me to share the information. But yeah, absolutely. Load up the picture.
Okay, so I'm super excited then, because after I was talking to her about that, I thought, oh my gosh, that's a blog that I could do. I could love. I will still love it 38 weeks or 52 weeks from now. And
what's great about that is it's got some theme tied to it, right? That's your thing. We always say, when it comes to blogging, find your voice.
I know, that's really
do your thing. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't when early in my blogs, when I was first starting to write on technology 8 years ago now, I had this I search so you don't have to motif. And so I would go out and find things that were tech related, that were deals or interesting things, and I would write about them, and then I would always end the post, I search so you don't have to. That's the branding piece, right? That when we're talking about, because your sketch art is just like an infographic, right? It's exactly like an infographic. In fact, I think it's better in some cases than some infographics. So that's your thing. Capitalize on it, right? It's a niche. Nobody else is doing that.
And it's funny because I don't even care if anybody doesn't like it, because I just love it. I love doing it so much.
I know, but you're pretty confident with a lot of the stuff that you do. You don't really care if anybody else is doing it. But that's great, though. But it's such a good niche, right? It's finding that niche spot. And right now, you've got the niche. Andy, have you ever seen anybody do anything like that?
No, and actually when I interviewed her for thematics, Carol Anne said, oh, you just buy this pen and it's an app on your iPad. I'm like, oh. So bought the pen, app on my iPad. It took me everything to draw a straight line. I'm like, how does she do this? I can't get in there. So here's the pen. That's
right, that's the pen.
Yeah, this is the Jot Pro that she told me to get, and I was so excited. And then you said, well, sit down and watch one of your thematics and just use this pen. No, done.
It's not going to happen.
I even gave you a little tutorial.
Yeah, you did, and I'll sell you that Jot Pro for half the price that I paid for it, because
I'll take it.
Now it's going to be a paperweight.
But there's a lesson in this here, right? And that
yes.
For you, this idea of these notes comes very easy, and so it just works for you. And and I want to just talk to coaches who are listening to this. The idea of blogging just might scare the crap out of you. Or you think, oh, the last thing I want to do is write. If you hear one thing, don't hear us say, everybody has to do this.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
It's for some people, and it's not for others. And don't feel bad or you're any less of a person or any less of a coach if you don't have a blog. That's the last thing we want to say on this. It's just another way. We're doing this, and the reason we're kicking this off tonight is because I met you in Southern California. We started talking about this. I thought, let's do it. I came back from Southern California, said, Andy, we need to do a show. We're going to start with Carol Anne. Let's just get this going, right? And so that's why we started with blogs. No magic in it. This isn't the foundation of all coaching starts with a blog. Okay. Don't hear us say that.
For me, it was a push. So you had asked about my blog, and I didn't have a blog. And, the first couple ones, it's painful because I don't want to just sit and write. I'd rather talk to you. But today at lunch when we were talking about posting those sketch notes, I was like, if that's the kind of writing that I have to do for a blog, I can totally do that. I was just like, all of a sudden, it was, I can do this. This is something that I can do. So for those of you people that are looking for a blog to do, not that I've arrived, but find something. I hope that everybody finds something that clicks like that with them.
Yeah, no, right on. And Caroline, I'll be honest with you. You'll probably be a better podcaster than you would be a blogger, right? You've got the right personality for it. You're good on camera. You're not shy. All those things, right? Hey, let's say what it is. All three of us have that in us, right? To be on camera. There's some people who are scared to death of this. So I think that might be another medium for you in the future. You're good in public speaking. You're not afraid of anyone. So that might be, and that's another avenue. We'll talk about podcasting another time.
I think Jim's a little scared of Carol Anne. That's what I think. If he finds out she's in Omaha, he's going to stay in his house or call off sick. Who knows?
You're safe.
I think I already met her, so I think I'm in good shape.
All right, before we kind of wrap this thing up, there's some things that I wanted to discuss real quick here. I know we're dipping into the hour range, but we were a little bit behind, which was my fault. I apologize.
No worries.
But some of the best ways to gain exposure for your blog, and this is what we're talking about. We're talking about how to create it. Great, I've created it. Now what? Some of the best things that I found that work for me are creating guest posts on blogs with higher influence. So if you're brand new, just like Carol Anne, find a person who has an established strengths blog or something within the subject or description that you're trying to write to with a similar audience, and just send them a quick email and say, hey, listen, I'm an aspiring blogger, I'm a strengths coach, and I'm looking to get some exposure for my blog. Would you mind if I write a guest post? Easy. They may come back and say yes or no. Worst case scenario, they come back and say no. Best case scenario, they come back and say yes. Can you provide me with 500 words on this topic? And you say absolutely. That gives you a chance to expose yourself, and I absolutely love that. And I welcome any guest bloggers who want to send that information my way, Andy@unleashstrengths.com. Hint, hint.
Or trade blog posts, too. That's another great way.
Or swap back and forth. Yeah, this for that type of thing works really, really well. Other thing you can do is write articles for your local paper. I do this. I write editorials for the local paper. I make sure to slap in my blog's URL or domain name, and I try to gain some more traction here locally. Use a hashtag. Here's the thing about hashtags. Do not get crazy with hashtags. If every other word has a pound symbol in front of it, you need to get booted off of any social media platform and put in a home somewhere. Hashtags are meant to just use one or two to just convey a shared message. Don't get all Justin Timberlake hashtaggy. But that's a great way to kind of get some exposure for your blog. Also, like I discussed before, hi.
My daughter Macy.
Yeah, hi. Repurpose your content. What I like to do with blogs is I take my blog post and I repurpose that into a newsletter that I send out to my email subscribers. So it's a blog post. Not everybody that subscribes to my email list will receive my blog or read it. So I make sure I get kind of come in through the back door and I send it to them via an email. Also,
maybe that's where I put the how-to do the sketch notes.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. It's just a different form of content. The other thing I do is video creation. We're talking right now on a webcam. If you have a Google account, you have a YouTube account, log into your YouTube account, click on upload, and then click on webcam video. You can do what's referred to as a talking head video, just like I'm doing right here. Just summarize your blog, introduce people to it, ask them to come and look at it, subscribe to it, follow you on Facebook, whatever you want to do. just a different form of content you can get out there. And then you can share that link on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, your blogs, different social media outlets. Also an ebook. If you look on unleashstrengths.com under ebooks, I have 5 steps to kickstarting your top 5, an ebook. All I did was I took 5 of my blog posts, slapped them into a PowerPoint presentation, threw in some graphics, saved it as a PDF, and turned it into an ebook. There you go. That's an ebook you can send out via link. The other thing is presentations. You can take your blog post and break it down into a presentation slideshow format. There's a website out there called Brain Shark, B-R-A-I-N, Shark, that allows you, if you don't have the software to record record a voiceover for your presentation, it provides that for you. So you upload your presentation as a PowerPoint, and then you can go through just like pressing the space bar and actually record your voice using an external microphone or your iPhone earbuds or something set up like I have here. And then always, Jim and I's favorite, a podcast. So create a podcast off of your content. If you're a natural reader and you don't sound robotic, you can really just sit there with your most recent blog post open and kind of read chunk by chunk and maybe ad-lib and create yourself a nice little 10 or 15-minute podcast. So that's what I mean when I say
you need a microphone. You need a good microphone for that.
Truth.
So, like Carol Anne, you don't have a great microphone that you're coming in on. Right?
I'm on my computer.
Yeah, and that's fine. Right? But from a podcasting perspective, Andy and I are both on microphones that cost less than $100, and so you could make an investment in that. Not very much. You have the 2100 there, Andy?
$45 was on sale on Amazon.
Yeah, ATR, Audio-Technica ATR 2100 will change the way you do audio on your PC. Oh. Even if you're just talking to people, it's worth the value of a microphone like this on a stand in front of you with some earbuds so you can hear them clearly. They can hear you clearly. That's just great for anything. So you can you can pick those up. That's less. I think they're $60 normally on Amazon. ATR 2100. They make great audio tools, but that doesn't mean you have to do a podcast. You can do voiceover work. You can create unique sound bites for people, right? What do you like to do? I think that's the kind of the key there. What do you like to do, and how are you going to do it? Be creative from that standpoint.
Yep. There's a lot of opportunities out there to share your message. So
my brain is just like going.
Yeah. There's a lot. The temptation for us ideation folks and activators are to try and activate on all of them all at the same time.
Every single one.
Yeah.
I've already made my checklist. See, I'm an achiever. I just made my checklist of all the things that I need to do.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. You know, the trick for everybody in this is to take them one at a time and to work through it, right, and not to get overwhelmed by it. And so and by the way, like I said, blogging is just one way to do it. We wanted to talk about it because I know you had questions, and I get a lot of questions from, that's kind of probably the number one question I get from folks when we're talking about this all the time is, well, how do I do this, and why should I do it? And so I thought, well, let's do a show around it so we can kind of just talk, we can just kind of talk it out. Andy, you had said something as we're just wrapping this up here. You had said something I want to follow up on real quick too, and that really, from a marketing standpoint, the money is in the emails. Yep. And so when you talked about ebook, there's lots of strategies as you connect to people. You really want to connect to them in a way that they're subscribed or they're getting some kind of automatic contact from you. And so lots of folks, lots of bloggers put an email contact form on their site that says, hey, subscribe. If you want to subscribe to my podcast, send me your email address. An ebook is a great thing to give away when they do subscribe, right? You want to give them a little incentive to subscribe. You can use MailChimp has a great way, and it's just exactly like it sounds, MailChimp.
It's free.
And it's absolutely free. Listen, I know every free tool that's out there. So if you ever want to between Andy and I, we know them all. So
it's like the tech consignment Goodwill guy. What's free out there? Can I borrow your grandfather's jacket?
I know them all. And so MailChimp is a way to collect people's email addresses so that you can contact them back. If you're going to build a consulting business, especially around coaching, it's a great way to get people to. You can't abuse it. Just like anything, you can't get their email and then spam them every day, right? You can't go unsubscribe, right? There's no way. But it is a great way using an ebook or whatever, some exclusive access to something that they're not going to get if they don't subscribe, right? That's a great way if you've got some content that you're going to do. At the end of the day, this still comes down to one customer at a time, right? Names, not numbers. This isn't about growing huge audiences. This is about knowing every single person that's reading your blog. That would be my challenge to you. Know them all, right?
Well, I like that.
Yeah, know them all. And I broke this cardinal sin when I started podcasting 5 years ago. I said, email lists are old school. Who needs email lists? I'm not in this for the money anyways, blah, 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 blah. I just started doing email lists about 3 months ago, and I'm playing catch up with my audience in some ways around the tech blogs that I do. And I wish I had done them sooner. And I opened them up, and I had 50 people immediately sign up for communication. And I had a couple of them send me notes and say, Jim, thank you for setting this up, because I don't use Facebook, I don't use Twitter, I'm not on social media, and I needed a way to contact you. I wanted to hear from you, and I couldn't hear, all these times I'm like, hey, track us down on Twitter and find me on Facebook and blah, 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 blah. And there's these people are like, I'm not on any of that stuff. And believe it or not, there are still people who are. So find a way for them to subscribe. MailChimp's a great way for them to subscribe and stay on a list. They can always unsubscribe if they want to. But then you can send them a note once a month, once a week, whatever they think, to say, hey, here's a few things that I wanted to tell you. And people still check email for the most part. So it's a great way.
Yeah.
Money's in the list. That's super important.
Yep. So, Carol Anne, do you have any more questions for us?
No, I'm so thankful though. I'm really grateful for all of this advice, and it will be taken. So give me a couple weeks to change things, but you're gonna see it.
No, and I hope you didn't take it. It's tough to have your.
Maybe not. No,
we won't do that for everybody.
I'm really thankful. I wanted this.
Good.
It's a growing process. Building your online brand is not something that happens overnight. So it's something that you're just continually going to grow. Not only, I always laugh when I look back at my content that I slapped on, really quick story. This whole thing, I'm a marketer by trade, but this whole thing was created, Bent Business Marketing, because I went to a marketing conference with guys who had, belt buckles the size of dinner plates and big gold rings and fancy watches, and they were all telling me, buy yourself a mailing list, send something to it every day, who cares about spam, that's how you make money. True, you do, but you'll lose majority of your readers and their respect and their trust. And so when I started blogging, it was all about, what does my audience want to hear, and how can I build their trust? Because I genuinely want to develop a friendship. It's not something where I'm going to be shaking all these people's hands, but it's something where when my email comes in their inbox, I want them to say, oh, wow, there's a new blog post from Unleashed Strengths or Bent Business Marketing. I want to read that. So think about, like Jim said, names, not numbers. I love how you put that. But this show, Tech for Coaches, will adapt. And just like I said, we'll look back at this first one and think, man, I can't believe Andy was 30 minutes late and didn't have Internet Explorer installed on his desktop. Who doesn't have Internet Explorer? This guy. I don't like it. So
I'm sorry, man. I was hard on you. I'm sorry.
So you threw me for a loop there, Jimbo. But anyways, it's going to continue to progress. If you have questions about technology, how it can build your coaching practice, how it can help you kind of reach more people and eventually take a step closer to success, please email me, Andy@unleashstrengths.com. Again, that's Andy@unleashstrengths.com. I had to make sure I got the sh in there. Email me and just let me know what you want to hear, and Jim and I will make sure that we create a show around it and have you on as a guest as well. Also, last-minute pitch. If for some reason you want to start a blog and you just really don't know how to do it and you want to create one with your own domain, I do have web development abilities within my company. I work very closely with the web developer, and we have very, very quick format blogs that we can crank out, that we can customize just for you, and financially they're right where you need them to be. So again, email me, Andy@unleashstrengths.com, if you're interested in a quote for that as well. We also offer copywriting and a bunch of other stuff, but this is just focused on helping you guys learn more about technology. So that's it. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/unleashstrengths. Hit us up on Twitter @UnleashCSF. Jim, do you have anything you want to say before we close this bad boy up, since you're in control?
Yeah, I'll just say I am in control, and don't you forget that I'm in control. I'll just say, don't forget, like I say at the end of Call to Coach and Theme Thursday, all your coaching resources and strengths enthusiasts resources as well at the Gallup Strengths Center, GALLUP-Certified. And of course, you can catch me just about every week out at the coach's blog, coaching.gallup. GALLUP.com. I'm obligated to say that, Andy. You know that, right?
Yeah, well, there's something written somewhere that you signed, I'm sure. So what about the average? What do you want to talk about that?
Oh, no, we won't pimp that. Just if you wanted to see, I talked about my personal stuff, and I have a tech blog and podcast that I do on the side, theaverageguy.tv.
Ooh, there you go. AverageGuy.tv. I tune in all the time. It's great stuff. Carol Anne, do you have any words of wisdom you want to throw at our listeners before we close this up?
No, just really super excited that I get to be on this adventure with you, and be kind as I change my blog, and come read what I post. And I'm going to be looking for Theme Thursday. I'm in Albuquerque on Thursday, but as soon as I get done with my session, I am going to come home and sketch note communication.
Awesome. I'll look forward to those.
Yep.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Do we have any questions in the chat room or anything?
No, we're good. You can close it up.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening to episode number 1 of Tech for Coaches. This is your host, Andy Sokolovich, along with Jim Collison, and we'll see you guys 2 weeks from now. Monday, what is that? November 3rd will be our next show, and subject to be determined. So stay tuned. Look on Facebook. There'll be some more stuff being filtered out. So have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
You know, I'm in